getting to the hotel now. It was a really rough flight and it's really stiff, and I need to loosen up before my audition tomorrow morning. Do you have anything for me?
Hello? So glad to hear you landed okay, baby, but yeah, I get it. Being up that high, over 30,000 feet is, pressure is higher, you're gonna crush your body like a can. And so what we wanna do is just kind of re-establish relaxation so, kind of everything can move on its own. So I'm gonna give you some exercises this week to work on that. So I don't know about you, but anytime I travel or I've been on a plane for long periods of time or standing for long periods of time in my work, my body just feels stiff. I don't feel as fluid. And when it comes to what actually happens to our body, the force of gravity is kind of coming straight down on us and crushing us like it can anytime we spend too much time sitting or standing. This is especially true of being up in the air when the pressure is much higher. We start to feel aching and like our knees or low back or, kind of our weak link, as it were. So what we want to do in this scenario is start to restore movement of one place versus another place. And the reason that is because the body is an internal pressure system. So when you go to exhale and produce sound, what we want is exhalation to occur here, and then very quickly to occur here, and then to occur here, is everything kind of just stiffening up together, and then we lose potential exhalation and potential air that we might have access to otherwise. So one of the key relationships that is, kind of an example of what I'm talking about, and what we're going to talk about this week, is body on neck movement versus neck on body movement. What I mean by that is, as I'm looking forward and I move my body under my neck, okay, I'm getting relative movement of both places, but we're just moving much more here than we are here. Okay, so I'm establishing movement here and then sort of transferring it up. Whereas when I start here, rotate my neck, okay, my body stays stationary. We're also getting movement in each place. It's just one area is able to move more than the next area as opposed to sort of like everything moving together. And this is sort of essential to kind of, establishing that nice like bullwhip effect where, we get a little bit here, more here, and eventually we create sound. And so this week we're going to talk about relaxed movement that's going to reestablish those and sort of my go-to activities to create that motion in your body after long periods of travel. All right, so in this first video, I want to focus specifically sort of on more of our cranial regions, so our head, our neck and our body and the relation of one another to itself, okay? And so when we talk about areas moving independently of another, we have a couple things that we want to talk about. We have vision, okay, the movement of our eyes. We have mandibular movement, which is the movement of our jaw. And then we actually have the movement of our head itself, and then the movement of our body. So a lot of stuff going on there, okay? So thing one, okay, would be disassociating my eyes from the rest of my body here, okay? And this is something that I see a lot of vocalists struggle with. So what you can do is literally just kind of find a fixed point with your eyes, and then the goal would be to keep the head forward, the head stationary, and then move the eyes to the left, move them back to center, move them to the right, move them back to center, move them up, and then down. Okay, and what you'll find is that when you don't have good control, your head's gonna kind of want to follow, right? So we want to work within the, kind of our visual field and work to make that bigger, okay? So we can kind of start with small excursions and then even go to a situation where I'm sort of looking in vectors, and so kind of upper right, upper left, kind of work on that. As far as mandibular movement goes, again, same thing, eyes stay forward, but this time I can work on moving my jaw forward, moving my jaw to the right, moving my jaw to the left. And one thing you'll notice from me is that it's much easier to get to the left than the right. So if you notice kind of a limitation in one direction, spend a little bit more time in that area, because chances are, when we kind of go in one direction, our head's going to go the other way. So kind of getting that shifting is actually shifting the maxilla, or the cranial portion of our head in relation to the mandible. So it's kind of interesting, but again, we're getting that sort of movement of one area versus another, which is reestablishing motion in these areas. Okay, so now we're going to talk about head on body movement. Okay, so in this position, I'm seated. Okay, I can also put my hands in front of me to stabilize my body as well. And what I want to do is just move my head on top of my body. So again, sort of rotate my head as far as I can to the left, come back to center, Take my head as far as I can on the right. Be really careful not to kind of poke forward. Going up and then going down. Okay, and then I can, as I get better, I can do what's called a neck car, where I start to make bigger circles, clockwise and counterclockwise, while again, keeping my body fixed. Okay, so last but not least, we stand up. We're gonna talk about body on neck movement. One of my favorite moves, just kind of quite simply, is bending my knees, eyes are forward, just rotating my torso. So reaching in one direction, reaching in another direction. Again, I'm getting good rotation of my rib cage and my thorax. My vision is staying fixed. We're really sort of opening up the cervical spine and all the areas below. So a good strategy would be to sort of do those things in sequence, and then sort of look at the one that seems to be maybe most impaired or you have the most trouble with, and focus in a little bit more on that as your strategy. So my other go-to for reestablishing motion on my body is just rolling on the ground. And again, the reason that is, and this is kind of taken a lot from Feldenkrais and things like that, is the fact that on the ground we're in a very supported environment where gravity is actually acting in my favor to stabilize my body. And so anytime you're really stiff, just sort of laying down, especially laying on your side, because when I do this with a lot of vocalists who are kind of compressed all along here, if I squish myself side to side, it's going to open all this area up. And so what I like to do with this is just lie on my side, just start to breathe, and just sort of work on. I can even kind of squish my rib cage here. Work on sort of just opening up my chest wall to begin with. Just relax, breathing, just trying to get this rib to kind of, with each exhale, just relax, nasal breathing, just sort of pushing down on it so we can open up in this area. From there, I'm just going to sort of move this top hand in front of the bottom hand, just slight movement. And again, I'm going to stop when my head starts to roll, because then we're starting to get motion of these two areas together. I'm just trying to rotate from my thorax right now. So I'm breathing in as I go forward. I'm exhaling as I'm coming back. So like super, super slight movements here. Then I can do my head, again, just holding here, just sort of rolling forward a little bit, rolling back. This is a really, really great exercise, again, for people who get a lot of temporal headaches and temporal compression, because just like my rib cage, I can get compressed sort of from front to back here, which is going to create a lot of, suboccipital compression, temporal headaches, that kind of thing. So by lying on my side, even kind of using my hand to push down on this area, I create some almost like a massage-like effect here, so I can kind of expand this area out, get a little bit more motion. But again, notice that slight movement, no more than that. Again, and finally, I also like a lower body roll, because we can sort of open up the backside of the pelvis, give a little room for that pelvic floor to work. So again, I just roll, breathe in, and then exhale and come back. I can finally kind of combine everything by just sort of leading with my lower body, breathe in, following with my arm, following with my head, and then sort of reversing with my head, reversing with my upper body, reversing with my lower body. So kind of a full body roll here. And again, you'll just notice that sort of maybe one area is a little bit more stiff than the other area. It's harder to move from, my head, for example, without this following. So I might spend a little bit more time here as well, but never underestimate the power of just really slow, controlled movement, feeling good. Starting by just laying here and breathing and just feeling that opening up, everything is expanding, and then we can sort of start to reestablish this movement. So one area slides over the other area, and we can start to undo that process of kind of gravity crushing us down like that by compressing ourselves from the side and opening ourselves back up.